So for my lesson, I chose to do a scrapbooking page about the Cold War. The Cold War started in 1945 and ended in 1991. The war was mainly between the USA and the Soviet Union. So the reason why it happened is because the United States supported democracy when the Soviet Union supported communism. The USA wants to stop the spread of communism when the Soviet Union wants to continue the spread of communism. So you can see a map that says NATO versus Warsaw Pact. NATO stands for North Atlantic Treaty Organization, which is the Western Bloc that is led by the United States, which is in the blue, and the red is the countries that signed the Warsaw Pact, which is the Eastern Blocs, which is led by the Soviet Union. Even though the United States and the Soviet Union did not directly fight each other, they did participate in proxy wars. The first one is the Korean War, which started in 1950 and ended in 1953. So the reason the Korean War happened is because North Korea, which is communist, crossed over the 38th parallel, which is the border between North Korea and South Korea, and that started a war. And North Korea is backed by the Soviet Union because they're communist, and then South Korea is backed by the United States because they're fighting communism. And eventually, after 3 years, they come to a truce. And if you see the green line right there, that intersects the 30th parallel, that is the truce line. I actually watched a movie about this recently that's called Ayla, which is about a Korean girl whose parents die in the Korean War, and she gets adopted by a Turkish soldier because Turkey had also sent some soldiers to help South Korea during this time. So the next proxy war is the Vietnam War, which started in 1955 and ended in 1975. So the reason this war happened is because North Vietnam, which is the communist entity, which is backed by the Soviet Union, went to war with South Vietnam, which is the non-communist entity, which is backed by the United States. And if you see this picture right here, that is actually American soldiers going to fight in Vietnam. And basically, there's this concept of fighting communism, and but unfortunately North Vietnam won the war, and they turned the whole country into one Vietnam, and it all fell under communism. And then the next kind of proxy war is the Cuban Missile Crisis, which lasted 13 days in October of 1962. So basically, what happened was the Soviet Union um, were hiding missiles in Cuba, and this was around Fidel Castro was in power, and there was an American plane that was flying over Cuba that spotted the nuclear missile, and basically there was like a 13-day standoff, and they eventually came to agreement that if the Soviet Union removes the missiles, then the United States will not invade Cuba. So the Soviet Union spent too much money on weapons and military that affected their economy negatively. The United States also doubled their defense spending, and both spent at least 200 billion in the arms race. This picture right here is the Berlin Wall, which fell in 1989. So basically, this wall was kind of built overnight that separated East Germany from West Germany, and East Germany was under the Soviet Union's power. And they did try to do some things to kind of solve the problems that were there using glasnost and perestroika, which glasnost is like more freedom of speech, allowing criticism of government. And then perestroika is kind of restructuring the government by not the government, sorry, the economy by allowing more local and private businesses and just a little bit more economic freedom. But it was ultimately a failure, and the economy was weak, and there's so many different like ethnic groups and cultures and languages of all those people in that big region, that there was increasing nationalism, and it resulted in 15 new countries and the collapse of the Soviet Union. Thank you. Also, these are my sources for the photos and any external information I got outside of the modules. Thank you.